Hello, everyone. Welcome to Relatable Stories. I'm your host, Angeline Gahadza. I'm so excited today to be bringing back Karen Mufandaeza, my friend and sister, to talk about a topic that I felt was very important for us to discuss: the struggles the firstborn children face. I am a firstborn child myself, and going through my healing journey with emotional abuse, I started to actually pick up some traits or some characteristics and personalities that I developed just because I was the firstborn. And oh, you guys must just listen in, invite a friend or two. Let's talk about it. Let's unpack. Let's see how we have been standing in our own way. Especially if you're a firstborn or if you have firstborn children, it is important for you to understand how our minds work when we are termed or deemed deputy parents. For those that are joining us for the first time on Relatable Stories, this show was created to just cultivate self-love within us. The relatable stories that we're sharing will connect us, will enlighten us, and also will draw attention to the areas that we need to grow. We might not know these areas, and it is through the telling of relatable stories that we can actually learn and understand that we might not be loving ourselves in the right way. So, without further ado, I'm going to bring on my favorite person, Karen.
In the world. Hello.
Hello, Karen. I'm going to get into trouble for calling you my favorite
And
person in the world.
who else is your favorite person?
It's you, Karen. It's you.
Oh, okay. Just checking. Okay.
How are you?
I'm good, my love. How are you?
I'm awesome. So glad to have you back on the show.
For inviting me to your
Yes,
show.
we need you to tell people who you are. Like, you are amazing. I know this, but like, it's the question I'm asking everybody. What makes you amazing?
You're biased, so you have to think I'm amazing. Um,
Yeah, this.
yeah. Well, I'm Karen Rumbi, and yeah, I am a firstborn. I'm a sister. I'm an older sister. And a whole lot of other things. I'm a sister to, I think, everyone, including Angie. I call her child or little sister. Chipo, I call her young one. So I just assume the role because, yeah, I'm the older one.
You are the older one, and you own it, hey?
I do. I do. It just comes very naturally.
And professionally, what do you do? What are you passionate about? Just want to
Oh,
know who.
I'm a web developer. I work here in Pretoria as a Magento web developer. So I kind of specialized in Magento e-commerce and stuff. And I'm very passionate about helping women in STEM, introducing women to STEM because there's too few of us in the industry and that just sucks. And I'm also involved in other projects about women in the industry, STEM to be specific. There's so much gender parity, gender disparity, and all those things. So trying to fight that and make women visible in the workspaces.
That is so
So yeah,
awesome.
that's a little bit about me and my
You're
life.
out there uplifting a sister in your
Yes,
own
finally.
space.
Yes, I'm
Ah,
also a mentor. I recently started mentoring because I realized that there's very few women who actually mentor other women. So it's always the guys who mentor women, and that relatability is
mm,
missing. So I've
yes.
started mentoring other women as well, which is quite fun. So
That is
yeah,
that
that's
is brilliant. Oh, now they know how why I think you're amazing. It's not a bias, honestly. Like anybody who gives their time to help others and to get people to realize their dream is amazing. And I know you've done that for me. You're the first person to say, dude, you're a writer, go for it.
you're
And
welcome.
here we are, a few years later. So, Karen, this topic is something that we've been talking about like all our lives. Well, when I
Mm,
say all our lives, I mean like we've stayed together for years, and we've talked about our struggles as the firstborn children, and so we wanted to come to this forum and show people how difficult it has been for us to get over some of these responsibilities, some of these things that that beliefs or ideas that we've actually taken on because we thought we had to. So I think I just wanted to, first of all, before asking you any questions, just tell us
Mm.
how it's like to be a firstborn. How do you like it? Do you feel it's overwhelming? What are the joys? What are the pains according to you?
So liking it and all that, I actually don't know. It's the only thing I know.
Right.
So it actually kind of defines me as a person. So that's who I am. I am a firstborn. And growing up, I was like when my sister Rudo was born, and then my other little sister Rosaline was born. I was like the little helper, you know, because
Mm.
they're like my little kids, my little babies. Like I assumed that role without being told to. I would
Hmm.
be like, yeah, they're like, you know how when Muruk Maumbu and stuff, you would actually defend them with your life, start off
Right.
with your life because they are your people.
Right.
So yeah, that's that. And also when my little brother was born, Fitzgerald, I think I was in grade 5, which is round about what age is that? 11, 12. I no 10, 11.
10, 11. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember my mom actually vakanditengera 2 liters. Yeah, yeah, Fanta because I used to love that. And then she was like, everyone, that tengera current 2 liters of Fanta because she takes care of the baby. Like I would rush from
Oh,
school to come home to take care of the baby. And yeah, it was just being a
it sounds
sister.
like it was fun for you.
For me, it was, and no one asked me to do all these things. I just assumed the role, and I didn't mind it, honestly.
Why do you think that was so? Like you
Um,
just happened naturally.
It just happened naturally. Yeah. I just assumed the role. Nobody asked, nobody said anything. At least I don't remember anybody saying anything. Or I do remember my mom always telling me that I have to take care of my siblings. I'm the oldest and I need to be
Mm.
there for them all the time. So I took that in like in the literal sense that I need to be there for them. So I was there for them. I hope they know throughout life. And then even as they grew up, I was still there for them. And then even they started thinking for themselves, I still
Mm.
wanted to think for them.
Right,
And
right, right,
yeah.
right. That right there. That right there. I
Yeah.
can relate with you in terms of you just love it. It's almost like your first sibling or the second one that comes after you is like automatically the first person you choose to love. And it's so easy because they are also helpless. So you acknowledge the fact that you have to take care of them because they can't do anything for themselves. But I feel like that there's a time where they can't do things for themselves, and you and the parents are helping out, making sure they're fed, making sure they have everything that they want when they cry. And but then there's a time where they can now do things themselves. do
And
you
you still want to do that.
Yes. Do you ever see yourself feeling like, oh, okay, now I'm okay to not, help them out. They can now do things themselves. Is that something that ever came to your mind?
It did. And it was actually very difficult to take that step back because I could
Okay.
see now that I was uh portraying my opinions and stuff onto them, and then if they didn't do what I said you should do, then I would get upset. Like, why are you not listening? But these are grown-ups, these are people who can now think for themselves. And then it would
Mm,
feel like I Karen needs or Karen Anota. But for
right.
me, it's coming from a place of love. I've always done that, so I want to keep doing that. And
Right.
then yeah, and then I had to literally make myself stop and then say, okay, I will help when they ask for help. But it wasn't easy to get to that
Karen, at
point.
what age was that? Because I'm
I
like,
I was
damn, girl.
I was way in my 30s when that came. And they were all
Okay.
at university and stuff, and I was still saying, you guys, you don't listen. I said this, so why didn't you do this? And it would be
Right.
like, yeah, well, you
But
did say
who are
that, but
you?
I made my own. would like confuse me, like these children, as if they're my children. Then I
Mm.
had to like say, okay, Karen, you need to work with a stress, so
Yeah.
relax.
So can you
Yeah.
say that there was an expectation that subconsciously even that when you were doing all these things or all your efforts that you were putting or towards their livelihood, the goodness of their livelihoods and all that, you had an expectation of gratitude and an expectation of them taking your advice just because
Mm,
you knew better or you
mm,
had walked through the journey before them and you knew what life was all about.
absolutely. I expected them to listen to me, and I expected them to actually come to me for any problem or
Mhm.
anything. It might not be a problem, it might be like anything. And then if they don't, I'd be like, but why didn't you tell me?
Right,
You know,
right.
things
It
like
was an
that. Like
expectation.
they don't actually have to tell me, but I expected them to like not put me on a shrine, but
Yeah,
like
because you're
I am your older sister and you decided to do radiology, but you never told me. Like, she
mm,
didn't have to tell me that, but I felt like, why didn't you tell me? And
right, right, right.
what,
Because we
what,
make these decisions together.
yes, yes. And then you
So,
didn't tell me, like, what's happening, you know?
oh my gosh. So I'm wondering what is it that makes us feel like we should expect that, because I also can relate to that. I remember also feeling very left out and feeling very frustrated when my brother didn't go with my way, because I was so used to him taking my way when he was younger, and then he didn't know better, he just took whatever I said, right? But at the time that he also started making his own decisions, then I was having trouble. I was like, what changed? We used to be so close. You used to tell me everything. You used to just follow. It was easy, right?
Yeah, like,
And
did something happen? Why? Who said
right.
what?
But why is it like, so I'm wondering and I'm curious. What is it that makes or made you feel that this was an expectation that was realistic?
I guess for me, it's because I would say from day zero, I was there.
Right.
And from day zero, they needed me like that, you know?
Right.
So that became part of who I am, being needed. And
Right.
I think at the time I actually didn't realize that I feed off being needed by
Mm,
them and stuff.
mm,
Yeah. And
mm.
then when they stopped needing me in that way, it became very difficult to detach. So
Right.
them needing me meant that their expectations set, and back then they would be met because they need me. But then
Right.
as they grew up, as we all grew up, they stopped needing me like that. So
Right.
now all those expectations or all those things that I'd be like, is Karen or whatever,
Right.
those stopped. So I'm like, so now what's happening?
So
you
who
know?
am I in the world now?
When I was not ready to stop being needed, I still wanted to be
Right.
needed. I still wanted to take care of them. I still wanted to make decisions for them. I still wanted to, yeah, essentially be their mom.
I can relate. But Karen, didn't you have things that you had piling on? Because if I'm looking at my life, I'm thinking at the time that I still wanted to be needed, because I can relate to that. I also was struggling to actually continue to be there for them in the way that I used to be. So now I had a job. Now I had other responsibilities that had nothing to do with. I have one sibling, and that was hard. I have other responsibilities that that needed my attention. But I decided that if it came to my little brother, I have to show up, right? So I would show up as an overextension of myself. Not to say I can. I really probably couldn't, but I needed to do it. It felt like it's something that was tied to my worth. I don't know what's your take on that, because it's sort of like if I didn't do that, even if I fulfilled every other responsibility that I had in my life, it wouldn't be enough. I needed to continue to do this so that that gratitude could fulfill me. Is that something that you can resonate with?
Yes, sort of, yeah, absolutely. Because now I'm just thinking, I'm thinking maybe this is also how I then became a good project manager, though I wasn't trained to be a project manager. I have three
Right.
siblings, and then well, it's not really three. I can safely say I have five younger siblings. The other two are my cousins, but we practically grew up together. So
Right.
I have five siblings. Yeah. vari kumashure kwangu. Saka I used to sort of manage them, you know, kuti uyageza, uyaenda kuchikoro, uyaita chakati, homework, that. So
Right.
I
Right.
started project management at a very young age because I was
Mm,
managing my siblings.
right.
So yeah. So now when I then started working, it wasn't very difficult to balance the work life relationship. I could still manage them and I could still manage work. There was no point where I felt overwhelmed. Financially, yes, I could feel overwhelmed because they wouldn't even ask for money, but I would offer it because I
Yes.
would have a feeling like, oh, so is my brother eating? Or oh, so is my sister that? Or is my brother maybe he's struggling? And then I would just offer the money. So it became a financial thing for me. So see, I would not have enough money for me to do me things because I've offered it to my siblings. Not that they asked, but
Yep.
because as a parent, a person who's always been managing them, I have this feeling that Gerald might not do XYZ, so let me do this.
Let me do this for
So,
him. Wow.
yeah,
So like,
and
so you're like think anticipating all the things that you may have needed during the time that you were growing up, because obviously you didn't have anybody to do that for you, and so you're like, if I was feeling I needed this, therefore they must need it, and they let me just bridge the gap. They will appreciate it because
exactly. Yes.
yes,
It was that whole appreciation thing because for me, I was like, okay, when I came to South Africa, I was alone. I didn't have money. I was broke. And there were all these things happening. You're a foreigner and blah, blah, blah. So my brother was in China, and I'm like, maybe he's experiencing all those things. So
right,
maybe if I financially help him, he will be so thankful.
yes, and he's not thinking about that.
He didn't ask. He did not ask.
Yeah. So for the guys in the audience, please tell us your stories and what you have experienced as a firstborn child. But I think this particular point that we on now, the expectations that we have of our siblings because of the efforts that we do naturally is the biggest for me. And I feel like even though we feel it's natural, there are certain specific things that happen or are said as we're growing up that make us cement that idea. So for example, you are supposed to be a role model, excuse me. You're supposed to be a role model. As a role model, you've already decided, or if your parents have already told you you are the role model for your siblings, it makes you believe that whatever you are doing is the correct thing. And therefore when you impose it on them, you are not even questioning to say, is there other ways to do the things that I've done in the world that they could explore? You're like, if I went through college, high school, got my straight A's, went into college, got my degree, now I'm working, that model works, and that's the one that they should follow. So because I am the role model, this is what I have created for my siblings, so therefore they must walk in it. Do you think that that had anything to do with why you felt you, or why you expected your siblings to follow in your footsteps?
Sort of, but for me though, it's a little bit different.
Okay.
Uh, the whole footsteps thing because I realized, for example, I realized like after A level that what I want to do, like what I want to do with my life, I don't want to go to college. So for me, I would always preach that don't go do the 4 years varsity if you don't need to do it because I didn't need to do it. Though it was pushed on me, Kuti, once you finish your A level, you need to go to university. But
Right.
then I wanted to be like a programmer and I didn't want to do computer science. actually I couldn't get in to do computer science. The expectations for computer science were too much, but I wanted to do it, so I found other avenues. So for me, I
Okay.
was like, you know what, whatever you want to do in life, there's no one way of doing it. You can
Right.
find other options until you get there.
Mm,
So yeah, I didn't necessarily set a boiler template or a template for them to do stuff. I was just like, you know how my family is, we are super chill, like do you.
do you? That's so cool. And the envy. I also read. I was reading a lot of it about how somehow you start to feel like life is easy for this person, and so when they don't show up the way that you expect them to show up, you're like, but I don't
That
get it. You have it
that is so
easy.
true. That is so true. Well, for me, that envy, it's because when I was growing up, my parents, my father to be specific, was strict. And get, rather, let me say
Right.
get type thing. That's how strict he was. He was
Right.
very strict, and the whole school thing, like you have to pass, and
Mm-mm.
like anything, he was very very strict. Even my mom, she was very very strict with me. But then as I watched my siblings growing up, that whole strictness, it was lacking.
Yeah. It was
Like
like
for example, Rosalind would be like, oh, I then called Mama Nadia Dupti, she was talking about my 10, 11, and yeah, that was cool. But for me, I could never do that. What was
not
it?
even at 6 o'clock. See?
I need I need to like Zuba Chivira Chirorgavira na 5. You know how Zim sometimes
Right,
it gets
right, right,
early.
right.
I have to be in the house. It's non-negotiable. But now
Yeah.
for these guys, it's very negotiable. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. Be safe. I'm like, what's happening? Why did you do that to me? You never did that. Like, why didn't you give me that whole, freedom, that space that you're giving these guys? So I was envious of that. They were not strict with them as they were
At
strict with
all.
me.
At all.
Yeah.
I remember my mom was very strict about me coming home to have all my meals. She was strict about the time that I showered and the time that I went to bed. But my brother could spend the whole day out. We would have to keep his food from breakfast to dinner, and and nothing ever happened to him. And I felt, yeah,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was like almost like there was a feeling of there's double standards, but I never actually acknowledged that when I was growing up. I knew it was there, but I almost also endorsed it because I was like, I wished that that was me, and I also wanted to be a part of enabling my sibling to have the liberties that I didn't have. However, as time went on, I realized, yes, I was doing that, and out of the goodness of my heart, I wanted him to have what I didn't have. It made me feel more, expect more appreciation for helping him get all of that, because sometimes I would even advocate on his behalf and say, he's a teenager, so guys, you can't really give him a curfew for 6 o'clock. It's not on guys. I mean, the transport, blah blah blah. I make his case, and so before he even had to be made accountable for whatever they were upset for, they
You've
would have
already
forgotten about
defended.
it.
Yeah.
Yes, I
Yeah.
refused. But then he didn't ask for it. He didn't
No.
know what I went through. So me expecting him to have that much gratitude for what I felt I had done, which was like a big thing, he didn't have. And I never got, that was never satisfied. And I feel like it started becoming low key, a frustration towards him not then following whatever orders that I had. And that brings me to the next point, which is we become control freaks.
Oh my God. Whew. Help
Who
me.
else is a control freak?
Because, ish. Yeah,
Talk to me about your control freak days, Karen.
it didn't even stop with my siblings. It continued throughout life, every
Right.
aspect in my life, work, relationships. Like I would
Mhm.
want things a certain way because, of course, I know better. I
Right.
mean, I've
Right.
always known better. So
Our parents said we do know better.
they did. They
Yeah.
they affirmed that I know better and I'm the best. And
Right.
so the whole control freakishness was just there. Initially, I actually didn't acknowledge that I'm such a control freak and I want things done a certain way. And if they're not, I won't be very happy until you prove that your way works. You have to
Right.
prove it, be it at work or in relationships or whatever. I was always that one person who was, how can I put it? Like, I would find loopholes in your way because I would be that my way is better. So yes, I was and kind of still low key am a control freak, but not
Mhm.
much anymore because I've grown as a person and I know that not one way is the correct way. There's so many things that can be done for so many. And besides, it's exhausting. Oh, I realized that that thing is exhausting.
I
Being a
know.
control freak, super exhausting. So when I discovered that it's exhausting, let me just let it be, let leave, and just let it go. Then life
Wow.
became easy for me.
So I actually like that. There was a point where you actually confronted the fact that you were now controlling everything and everybody around you, or trying to, and you had to you realize that that was overwhelming, and you had to start letting go. It's
Mm,
not easy to let go of responsibility, because what I realized is,
yeah.
from my story, I realized that I used responsibility and achievement as a way to gain love. I felt subconsciously that when I achieved, or when I got to a particular goal that my parents had set for me, because as a firstborn child, all their dreams and all the expectations they put on you, they're like, you're going to
On you.
be an academic success, you're going to be wealthy, you're going to be well behaved, like all the things that are good, they want that for you. And I don't know
Yeah.
in what ways your parents were doing it, but my parents would always do it in a way of motivation. But even in that way of motivation, to say you're the best, you're the best, there's no proof that you are the best. They're just putting it on you, and then now you have to sort of like use their yardstick to get there. And for me, I actually wanted to surpass their yardstick. So
To
that
be
made
the
me even
very best.
more of a perfectionist. And nobody ever told me to, like, no, you slow down. Even if you don't get the
With
five
the
Ks,
100%.
we love you. No one
85
told me.
is also okay.
so so on my own accord, nobody ever said it, but like, it's just the subtle things that I said, right? I wanted to be perfect, I wanted to be an achiever, and I felt that I was earning love by taking on more responsibilities. So taking off some of them made me feel like I couldn't gain the love. I don't know, what do you think?
Oh, I hear you. I hear you. For me, it was actually uh different. They honestly, like from the get-go, they never said I should be this. I took it upon myself to,
Right.
like, I don't know where it came from, honestly, that I need to be like the best or be better so that my siblings can see that this is what life is about, and
Right.
we can all be like, and I can be like the go-to person, or so to
Hmm.
speak. Yeah, so they didn't set any expectations for me. I just set them for myself.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then you were just going with that, and then you became a control freak. And
They didn't stop it. So if they had stopped it, I would have stopped. But they didn't, because I guess it was also like a good thing.
was working. Yeah, it was
It was
working.
working.
So I
So
actually I actually think that the most at most times, it's our idea of what is being said that sets us into emotion of wrong or limited beliefs, or whatever it is that goes on in our heads. And it takes an adult to realize what kind of path you're taking, to be able to take you off it. And I feel
mm,
like there's a lot of enlightenment that parents okay, parents, because everyone has a firstborn child, you have to be have to be aware of, we have to realize about what a firstborn child, what responsibilities they might feel they have to take on for themselves, just naturally.
mm,
But I wanted to know, Karen, when you then when you then decide to let go of your responsibilities, where do you start? How do you do it? How do you balance that with what you've been feeling?
So I didn't decide. I was actually told that I'm such a control freak and I'm smothering them, and they don't feel comfortable coming to me anymore because when they do and if they don't do what I say, I get upset. So I
Right.
was actually told that, you know what, you need to relax, smoke some
Mm.
weed, calm down, because you are so uptight. So then I was
Right.
like, oh, okay. So at first
Nice.
I was hurt, like, huh, after everything that I've done, and then you guys
Mm.
say this and blah blah blah. But then after much reflection, you know how it is when you're told things that you don't want to hear or that you were not
Mhm.
expecting to hear from these little ones. They're not little anymore, but for me, I'm like these
Yeah,
little ones
little.
that still need to listen to you and stuff. And then they're like, no, I can make my own decisions. So you need to like calm down because you're so uptight. So then
Oh my
after
God.
reflection, I had to like, okay, Husa, what are they saying? And then I realized that for real, I was a control freak. And for real, I would like freak out on things that shouldn't make people freak out, but I would because I would be like, So yeah, I was told I didn't decide to stop being a big
Yep.
sister.
I also didn't stop. I don't know about the firstborns that are listening today, but like if you have not stopped, likely you will not think about it yourself. And this is why we're talking about this now. And if you're lucky, your siblings will tell you upfront. But if you are unlucky like me, you have to go through an episode in your life that makes you start to do the self-love journey, and then you can start to actually realize that where your pressures are coming from is things that you're taking on yourself by yourself, and nobody is expecting you to, and now you expect gratitude for things that you took on yourself, and that's just a chain. And you know what, you then start to forgo or stop doing things that are for you, like you, for example, Karen, you were saying you were not even asked to be there for them financially, so you could have been using finances that were there for to build you or to chase your dreams and all of that to help them, and
Yes.
so you felt that they needed to be grateful for that to matter, or for that to make you feel like it mattered. Now if they're not grateful, and you still haven't achieved your dreams, you are in a space where you're stuck and upset and frustrated about
Yes.
things that you can't,
Yeah.
that aren't tangible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at one time, my brother actually said, but I never asked you.
Mm, mm.
Because I would be like, I don't even have an iPhone. I don't XYZ and because I have to do blah 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 for you. And I guess for him he was like, what is this mad woman talking about? I didn't
Mm.
ask Karen. I didn't. And then
Right.
for real, he never. I
Mm.
offered. So
Right.
yeah.
We offer to take, and it's sometimes it's not even financial, we just offer to take on the burden of their responsibilities. It is now easy for them to come to us because we ask them to come to us, but it's
Mm,
not every situation that you have to like say, now I'm finding the solution for you and I'm making sure the solution works. Sometimes
yeah.
you're just supposed to be there to listen, advise, and then let them take
Mm,
accountability and grow,
mm.
you know.
Actually realized that now I'm more of a sounding board, especially for my sisters.
Right.
Like I'm really just a sounding board. They bounce off their ideas with me, but you can see that already they know what they want, but they
Mhm.
just trying to, come to the decision or conclusion that I should do this. So yeah,
Right,
and I
right.
accept that. I don't push my own opinions onto their stuff anymore. Previously I would be like, no, 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 don't do that, you must do this,
This,
that's
this.
how this thing will work. But now I've learned to listen.
Yeah. And how's that new way of doing things changed your life? Like you say, you had said that some of these tendencies were going into like different situations in your life, work wise, other relationships. Have you seen the change in your approach, changing the way you show up, and also changing the way you feel in relationships in general?
Yeah, absolutely. It has changed. I work with this girl. Her name is Zodwa. So previous, I used to work with her in Cape Town.
Yeah.
I was mentoring her actually when she started working at SQLI. And then back then, my approach was no, do this, do that, do that. So I wasn't a very good mentor at the time. And then fast forward years later, she was like, "Okay, Karen, I know we've worked together, and I still want to work with you. Are they like, can I work with you? Because I know that you're the one person who would actually tell me." Like, she needed that whole do this, that. For
Right.
me, later on, I realized that, okay, I was probably not fair to Zodwa because I would always tell her what to do and get really annoyed if she didn't do what I did. But she needed that at the time. She actually came back
Right.
and said, "Yes, I was frustrated, annoyed, but you really helped me. So if there's a chance that we can work together, then I would really love that." So now we work together again. And I actually realized that where I would say do this, that, I actually give her a chance to say, okay, so how have you approached this
Mm.
scenario, this problem, and what do you think would work? I'm now listening and letting her make decisions on how to either troubleshoot code or just be a better developer for herself.
That
So
is so cool. That is
yeah,
so cool. Because like like what you've said just reminded me, like I was thinking about my relationship with my brother as well, that we get frustrated, but we don't realize that we also robbing them of life lessons. And we as firstborns, we are given an opportunity to learn how to be nurturers, how to be leaders. Like you're saying, you learned project management just off the bat because it's responsibilities that you had to take on, or that you chose to take on, but it taught you a lot of things, skills that you're using in your life now. But for the people that are being shielded from all these life lessons, when it comes down to, or boils down to them adulting, right, you're no longer there, or you don't have the capacity anymore. Now you have a family, you have children, you're
they have their
mentoring
own
people.
things.
You don't have the time to actually just focus and zone in on their lives and plan their lives. They have to do it on their own for the first time. And you had the opportunity to learn at a young age how to cope, how to pick yourself up, how to accept things you cannot change and all that. They were used to just being giving all that on the simple platter, not being made accountable. They are more susceptible to depression and stress when things hit the fan.
When they hit adulthood, that is true, because
Right.
everything is now overwhelming. That buffering is not there anymore.
Exactly. And we never think about it in that way because we're thinking about me, I'm taking on a lot. I need I need
This for you need me, and I'm gonna do this for you. But yeah, sometimes
but
we're not.
yeah, you're robbing them.
Yes, exactly.
And Karen, I wanted to ask you about being pulled in both directions. So during the time that you were like, I think you and I also have the similar situation where the age difference is like a little big. Like there's 5 years between me and my little brother, where even if we wanted to hang out together, there's sort of generational differences. And so I assumed the parent role as well, even though I wanted to play with him at times. How and being in the child's zone meant that you're not the good girl that you want to be, like, because with your parents you want to be the good girl that does everything perfectly. You've been taught, like, I mean, they were strict, so you learned how to be, but you also
Yes,
want to break the rules with your sibling because,
other stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
How did you balance being the good girl and the child?
So I'm also like 4 years older than the sibling who come like directly after me, Rudo. And then Gerald and I have like a 10-year age difference. So it's
Yeah.
very difficult to, not that you're okay. Sometimes that's Tombo Pindirana type thing.
Right.
But with Rudo and Rosie, I guess because they were girls, so it was easier to be their best friend as well. Not that I was their best friend. I later realized that Rulo and Rosie are so close in age, so they are like the best of friends, and
Right.
I'm like that sibling up there who just comes in here and there, not always, but like that was how it was when we were growing up. They
Right.
were like super like tight, and then I was just hanging there, and sometimes I would, play with them and stuff, but it wasn't that. I don't know how to explain it. Yeah, they were like in their togetherness, and
Right.
I would come with it. But I realized that as we grew older, when we hit, like, when all of us, the three of us, were above 28, we became closer. Like, I then stopped being up there, and then I'm now like with
There
them,
was an
or rather, they opened
equalizer.
to me. Like, they opened up to me as a person, as a sister, as a friend as well. But that only happened after we were over 28, all three of us. So now we are best friends. Now we can talk about anything. But before, it was never like that because
So
of
what
that
I'm
whole.
hearing is the balance between parent and child was not there earlier in life. And you were almost unreachable on their level because you had
Yeah,
other ways of thinking.
current or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I mean, like they had to confront you and tell you you're controlling before you actually became best friends. So
yeah.
it's possible that a lot of us as firstborn children, we don't know how to tone down the parenting side of things, because we have to be responsible, because sometimes when shit hits the fan, we are made accountable for being there with the children. So let's say we went to a party and we got reckless. As long as you're there, it's on you, because you're the adult. You're
But
the one
that,
who was supposed to tell the children that this is not good, and this is why probably the parents also make sure they enforce their strictness and the rules on you, because you have to carry the charge where they are not available. And what do you
yeah,
think about
I actually remember one time my brother got drunk and he came home and I could see that he's drunk and I was like, "Whoo, did Vashandi popotera?" Like I was stressed as if
right?
I'm the one who is drunk. So there
Yes.
I was cutting up lemons, telling him to drink water and telling him to eat lemons so that his breath is not, like, alcohol breath and
Yeah,
stuff. And
yeah.
I was super stressed on his behalf, of
Mm,
which he was supposed to take responsibility for all that, but I took
right.
it upon me to hide it because I didn't want to get shouted at.
Because it was possible that was going to happen.
Very possible. Like, where
So
were
what?
you when he left? Things like that. It would be on me. Like, if you had paid attention, you wouldn't be drunk like me.
I
But
totally
yeah.
hear you. And what do you think about that, in terms of the way that we parent? Is it something that is okay for a child to continue to think or to assume those responsibilities? Is it something that we can do as new parents, in terms of just shielding the firstborn child from taking on responsibilities of an adult when they're younger? I'm yet to actually get any evidence of the dire effects of such things, but I am a testament of some of the beliefs that I took on, because I'm a firstborn child, and the responsibilities that I took on that led me to be predisposed to abuse. So
Mm.
I'm still very curious and still trying to figure it out. What are your thoughts in terms of that kind of parenting that allows us to continue on our quest to run everybody's lives and be responsible for everything?
And everyone. So I don't have kids, but I would think that parents should let kids be kids. And when you see that your child is being a little parent, stop it. I have a friend, her name is Mali. She has an 8-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old son. And she
Mhm.
was actually saying that she can see that her 8-year-old daughter stopped going to her friends' houses to play and be with other people, and she actually stopped playing hockey at school. Mali didn't know
Yeah.
this, but her daughter stopped playing hockey at school because he needed to come home to what, take care of the baby because mom was
Wow.
at work. And Mali never asked her to do that. She only found out when she went to those parent teacher conferences that, okay, Kat quit hockey. She was quite good at hockey, but she
Right.
said she needs to be there for
The
uh
baby.
Tabo, the baby. And Mali's like, I didn't know this because
I
Mali
just asked her to do that.
5, and when she gets home Kat is already home and she didn't know. So she actually then had a conversation with Kat that you're still also my child
My
and
child.
you still
Yeah.
need to be a kid as well. You're also a baby. You don't need to quit
Right.
hockey to take care of Tabo. Auntie's here to take care of Tabo. Things like
Right.
that. If it was like maybe parents like our parents, they'd be like, oh, that's so sweet, she takes care of her brother, and
Right.
not
Right.
say stop, be a kid. So I think it boils down to how people parent kids these days, because Mali is also, well, she's not a firstborn, but she also has those effects of being like, between her and her sister is very much older than her, and then there's her,
Right.
so she feels like a firstborn. Like there's
Right.
a like a 10-year age difference between the very older sister, Mali, and the other
The
kids.
others.
So
All right. Right.
yeah, so
Right.
Mali feels like she's the firstborn, or so to speak, because her sister was
Hmm.
already an adult when she was.
Older.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So she told her daughter that you don't need to stop being cat because Tabo is here.
I think I would have benefited from that at a young age because I actually started with I was thinking about it and tracking it back. My mom started noticing all these things when I was almost like when I was an adult. And I remember countless times that I fought with her where she was like, you don't have to do this for your brother, or you don't have to do this, because she could feel and see I'm overextending myself. And I would actually fight her and say, I need to do this for me. For me, it felt like, now that I'm thinking about it, I realize what she was trying to do for me now and appreciate it. But at the time when she was doing it, it felt like she was fighting me. She was trying to get in the way of me getting the fulfillment that I needed. And this was based on subconscious beliefs that when I am there for my brother, my world is perfect. I'm the saint. I'm perfect. I'm an achiever, and
Mhm.
that would gain me more honor and love. And like I said to you, sometimes parents don't even give you unconditional love. It just feels like it because they're trying to cheer you on when they're motivating you. Like you said, it wasn't your case, but for some of us, it's their way of motivating is good if you think about it as an adult, but as a child, who doesn't actually understand why they have that much faith in you to begin with, you start to believe that you can do things even that you can't yourself. You start having
Absolutely.
unrealistic expectations of yourself, and you push
Yourself.
yourself in every area of your life going forward, because your parents believe that you are that person that can be overextended, and so you want to do that and prove them right. And you also feel like if you do that and you achieve what they had said that you would achieve, that would make you more special or make them love you more. So
More proud of you.
I know it's crazy. So, like, what other things do you think parents, new parents, or parents that are parenting two children at the moment, what they should probably look out for in their firstborn children that maybe they should curb at a young age?
Another thing for like new parents, I think they shouldn't forget that their firstborn child is also their child.
Right.
Because looking at it, I when Rudo was born, I was already 4 or 5 years old. I could see that I don't have it was all about Rudo.
Hmm.
It's kind of like I was forgotten. I was not there
Right.
anymore because it was
Right.
all about baby. It was all about Rudo. It was all about Rudo. So for me, I felt like, okay, so maybe I should also make my life about Rudo. That way I can feel
Yes.
part of the family.
Yes.
So I guess that's how I also became the deputy parent, because I would try to emulate what my parents were doing for her. She's the baby and they were doing XYZ. So I would start doing XYZ. So yeah, already I started parenting her as well because I could see that they were parenting her. So yeah. So for new
And that is
parents, I would
just a
say,
light bulb
don't
moment for
forget
me.
that, yeah,
Yeah.
don't forget that your other kid, your firstborn child, is also still a child, and they also still need attention from their parents
Hmm.
and or parents, and they're also still babies. Don't let them, like, don't sideline them, type thing, you know.
Right, right,
Because of
right.
course, when a new baby comes, it is really about the new baby and da da da, but let's not forget that there's also another person in the home.
I, I love that. I can resonate with that. And I think that it was like a light bulb moment for me because I always just thought, well, when he came back, I was like, when mom was pregnant, everyone was excited. She's going to the hospital and then she came with the baby. You are excited about the baby because, I mean, you're already playing with paper dolls and all of that, right? But it doesn't hit you right there and there that now this is your whole focus. But
Mm.
because, like you said, all attention goes to this baby and the baby is crying, the baby needs to be fed, and these things that are
It
real,
really
and
is a baby.
they
Yeah.
are like they need people around them to take care of them. And
Yes.
so when everybody forgets that you're still a child, then you immediately, like you said, you immediately assume this is what we all are supposed to do, and that becomes your worth or your that's how you gain love as well from your baby brother, sister, or your parents.
That's how you
um
also get attention and acknowledgement that you're actually in the room.
yeah, and
So you
to
know,
make
come
matters
out,
worse to make
otherwise
matters worse
you're
you
not
were
there.
yeah, and to make matters worse, Karen, before they come, you have 100% attention. Like you're the
Yes,
first child.
you're
The
the
first
first
child,
child.
the
Yeah.
first child gets all the attention, everything that
Oh,
they've been dreaming of. They're trying on you like you're the guinea pig. And
yes,
then all of a sudden, the
it's
attention is
gone.
taken away, and
Yeah.
nobody thinks to think what impact would this
And
have on the person whose attention we've taken from.
now gone. Exactly. So for
Yeah,
me, it was very, very obvious when Rulo came that, okay, I'm no
right.
longer the star. So how can I be the star again? It means I have to
Oh, so now
start
you have to work
helping
for.
with the baby.
But Karen, if you think about it, what I was telling you about how even though you don't know it, somehow love, it starts to feel like it's not unconditional. It's conditional to what you are achieving. So now you're like, oh, okay,
Yes,
let me now take care of the baby, and then this would gain me attention, and this equates to
yes.
me being
And
loved
the mom
again.
can see me. Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, I looked through some articles and I picked up a couple of points where someone, I think the psychologist was talking about what we can look out for. And so we'll just talk through it in the last few minutes and what you think, and you can add whatever um, on this. But this one, we have hashed it out a lot, but it's just reiteration, I guess. Show your firstborn unconditional love. A touch, a hug, and telling them I love you will let your child know that she's loved for herself, not her performance.
Oh, super awesome. This is
Right?
actually great. I think it's good for the young parents and stuff because honestly, my parents never told me that they love me, like the words I love you. They were
Right.
not, no, I didn't grow up hearing them. You would see that they love you. They would do stuff that show that they love you, but the words
Right.
themselves, nah,
Right.
they
Right.
were not there. And that was okay, I guess. It's the way we grew up. So,
Totally.
yeah.
Totally. And for me, what stood out for me was that part in brackets, not her performance. When
Not
I read that, I was just like, because I really felt like my performance was what mattered. I did eventually start getting hugs and getting the I love yous eventually, like I said, eventually, when parents were starting also to progress. But it never that I think we're talking about subconscious beliefs yes last week with Rav, that somehow I had not been able to unlearn the feeling that came with me performing and actually feeling attention and love. And
Ah,
so it was about my performance. I felt that love, especially from my dad, was about performance because we didn't have any other relationship besides his coaching, his motivation, because he's like my biggest fan. So like for me, it was like to gain his love, I needed to perform. So yeah, anybody who's listening, guys, this is what you can do for your firstborn child, for all children, but especially look at what the firstborn child is thinking, because we tend to carry burdens that aren't ours. We take those on our own. Nobody says we should, but we do anyway.
No.
The second one, acknowledge his challenges as a firstborn. Okay, his or her challenges as a firstborn. Thoughts?
Mm. Dude, Pharaoh literally wanted to kill all firstborn males. That's how that's how weird it is to be a firstborn child.
Right,
So
right.
yeah, actually acknowledge them and know that they're still children. Like, yeah.
Yeah,
Mm,
because I was thinking the way you can acknowledge is like you were saying, it's inevitable that you have to help out with the child, with the baby, because mom is busy and the attention needs to be given to the baby. But
mm,
if you voice it out and actually say to Karen, Karen, you know I love you, my baby. Baby doesn't when baby cries, we need to attend to them. But you know what? I will attend to you as soon as I finish, and they can understand why they're getting attention. First preference, sorry, to you, and at least that would make them understand the process and not make up beliefs in their head that they have to perform to get your attention. They know
yeah,
it's not about them, it's about the level where the siblings are. And you can continue to say, right now you're taking more responsibility because you're older and you've got the strength, etc. But later in life, Rosie can also cook, but for now, Karen, you do most of the cooking. She will just clean the table for now. I think that would have gone a long way for me if we
yeah.
could acknowledge the challenges.
Of the first one, like, oh, we see you.
Talk about their emotions, thoughts.
Wow. Okay. Again, maybe for parents now, because for when I was growing up, it was never a thing.
Right,
So yeah,
right.
it is very important to talk about emotions and all these things.
Mm,
Because I think if we had talked about emotions when I was growing up, there wouldn't be some build up, that I currently still have. And I probably would have known earlier on that I don't need to be needed because I actually wanted to be needed. I needed that.
right,
Then when it
right.
was taken away, it was very difficult for me. So maybe if we had talked about it, I wouldn't have felt so dejected to be like, Sarah, you guys makutoti XYZ, So yes,
Mm.
that is very important.
Yeah, and also you wouldn't have dropped. Okay, maybe it's not you in particular, but for some people, you wouldn't have dropped your dreams to to to
Yes.
to to actually facilitate your siblings' dreams that they probably don't care about, because you assume that they love this and all of that because it's what you think is best, but you are in danger of actually losing yourself trying to make sure that everybody else has a better life. So
Yes.
so as a firstborn child, sometimes we stop our lives and we
Mm.
think at some point we will be able to go on. Like I, for example, in this season now, I'm telling my brother, you know what? I had stopped my life for a minute. I'm sorry that I'm making you a victim to it, but it was my choice, and I'm now taking responsibility for it. No one asked me. I all my savings I sent back home. All my savings I facilitated trips that were not very necessary for you, so that you could have what I never had. But all of that put my life on hold,
On
and that
hold.
was, yeah, and that was building I was building resentment that I never talked about until recently. And so if we were talked about how I'm envious about my brother having it easy, not getting a hiding for things that I was getting a hiding for, not not having to take accountability for stuff now that I now want him to take accountability for in his adulthood. Um,
Mm.
all those emotions would have been nice if we talked about them. So yeah, man. Try to facilitate your child's privacy. What do you think?
Ooh, like privacy. Yeah.
Hi, Bo.
I grew up
Don't
in
you
a
think your
very
children need privacy? Okay,
no.
the context of this, I think, is where some siblings, I think maybe in the case of Rudo and Rosie, where you're like so close, your sibling is always following you. Maybe you're not so close, maybe you're too different, you have different sets of friends, but your sibling is always there and you're told to go with them or take them somewhere, or you have to stop your life. But like you said, you also, as an individual, you also need to be able to continue to have your own personal life. And sometimes yeah, I think that's where it was coming from.
Oh, okay. Because our privacy, what? It's still a very foreign concept. Like I
Yeah.
want to know what's in my brother's phone, even now.
Oh, okay.
Which is
Calm down, control freak.
I know, yes.
There, that one's for you. Teach your older child to be less bossy towards a sibling.
Yes, I was a little boss. They really should. That is true.
Yeah, because
Little
I
boss.
think because you're older, you automatically assume that you have to go first. You have to get the bigger chunk. You have to get the first dibs. You like there's always this whole notion of just like how your parents also just bulldoze and like it's their way. You are a
Bulldoze.
parent.
But for us, though, it was a little bit different. The older child would not get the bigger chunk. That's how we were taught. So it would be the younger one gets the bigger chunk, and the younger one anototanga guta before imime bakuru vajga. So I remember one time my uncle brought us my sweets, and
Mm.
then he handed them to me as the older child. But angasinga kwane, and I remember I ended up not having any, but
Wow.
my siblings did. And for me, it was quite normal. That was fine. I didn't even think about it or anything. But then when my mom came back from, I don't know, wherever she was, she brought like a bigger packet of sweets and she's like, ah, ndakazona security iwo wakazoshaya wapa vana saka ndauya nemasweets hobo. So I like, things like that.
No, I like that.
Yeah.
I didn't have like many siblings. I just have one, but like I feel in many scenarios maybe that might be overlooked. And I think your mom was very attentive in that regard to acknowledge that you are actually taking the lessons she taught you, which were good. That share and you will be the
Yeah.
last one. But at the
One,
same time,
yeah.
yeah, for some, I think a lot of times where because you're in charge, you're told you're in charge, you're the role model, you're responsible and all of that, that could also get into your head and you're always planning their lives and all of that. So you could plan it in your own way and no one is actually paying attention to what it is. So it's good to tell them, you know what, know that they're also a person in their own rights. They can also decide the things that they want and the things that they like, and teach us to allow each other to show up the way we are. Because I actually believe that I wanted my brother to be low key like me, in the way
Okay.
that I do things. And unfortunately, when he was younger, it was harder because he was surpassing all my all
Yeah.
my my achievements. But when you got older, he started changing, and instead of me trying to understand him, I was just like, this is my chance to mold
Oh,
him into what I
like
wanted. Because I had managed to get the good girl badge, eh? So I was like, since I've got the good girl badge, I
I
think
got
that I can
this.
make you a good boy.
Good boy. Yes.
Yeah. And then the
Really.
last thing, Karen, we've got is try to be even handed. And this was just basically talking about how even though there's responsibilities in the family, like for example the one that I was giving you where you have to help out in the kitchen, you just have to bring everybody into the kitchen, not have the firstborn do some odd chores that make no sense while the others are playing, because that just makes the child feel like, okay, this is my responsibility. These guys don't have to do this. And sometimes it makes you feel like you're not loved and you're the Cinderella of the story. What do you think?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. Like I remember Pango Kwakwe na Magetsi in Zim.
Mm-hmm.
Uh I would be the designated person and Onomona Pamoto. Not
Right.
that anybody ever taught Rulo Rosie to do the same. No, they didn't, because by default it was
Karen.
my job to go outside Kunomona Saza. So
Right.
I think that point is very important. Like,
And valid. Yeah.
yeah,
Because at the age that they probably were, by the time you're still doing it, that's the time they taught you. So why aren't they learning
exactly,
also and relieving me of the same things? Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. It's not
Yeah.
because they were too, no. It's just because, well, it was just Karen Shena Nomona Saza, and yeah,
Right, right, right.
not
I
I had
mean,
to
I mean, we've got a whole host of struggles that stem from just taking on responsibilities and doing and being and sacrificing ourselves without being asked. That we could talk about forever. But I
mm,
think there are positive things that we got from being firstborns.
yeah,
I
true.
think before we wrap up and before we actually put a downer on the whole being a firstborn child, I think that we've had it good. Tell me about what you got.
I actually appreciate it now because it has helped me in my career. Like I mentioned before, I was a project manager before I knew I was a project manager, because I was
Right.
managing people already. So now it's not something that's difficult for me. So yeah. And also the whole adulting thing, it didn't come as a shock to me. Sometimes I would see my sisters would be like, oh, then I have to pay a bill. But for me, I'm like, bills have to be
Yeah.
paid, you
Yeah,
know?
that's right. Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, it's not all bad.
Yeah,
I've
totally. I feel in
had
terms of stress management, um it's we are put under stress at a young age. Not that it's a good thing. Maybe they can help us manage it, but also because you had to go through all of that and found ways to cope,
to cope
hopefully.
with that pressure.
Because yeah, because the ways that we cope sometimes are bad, sometimes are good, and for others, we've found ways that actually work to cope with stress, like just being able to accept that bills have to be paid. It is what it is, and I pay bills first, and then I can go without luxuries, and that will be fine. But
Hmm.
our other counterparts are like, it's not balancing, so I'm not depressed.
I don't even have enough for the court that I wanted. If I pay this bill, I'm like, so the court has to go.
Yeah, like hello.
Yeah, yeah. For us, it's quite easy. And also, this whole thing of, even as adults, I still find myself wanting to fix problems, and I have to like take a step back because I was told that I'm a control freak. So there are times when you can see that, okay, maybe I can pitch in, but if they don't ask, then don't offer.
Awesome. And I think, Karen, another thing that we take for granted is that as a firstborn child, you are set for confidence. We can get overconfident, yes, and this is where we become know-it-alls and like we want to control everybody. But if we are able to balance it, or to find somebody who's truthful enough and helps us to realize that we're just overdoing it, we are generally just confident and we're able to lead. Whereas where some of our siblings are used to being led and following, and they never got that, you know, that training or that nurturing to become like very confident in your own abilities. Because like I said, sometimes your abilities are inflated by your parents because they just want to make sure that you feel you can do all things.
Yeah, yeah, so
You,
true.
through Christ, through them. So we've got that confidence going on for us, and
Yeah.
yeah, we
I
mustn't
think
dim our lights. So if you have to say any last words, I feel like one of the last points that you mentioned, don't take on responsibilities if it's not asked for, is something
it's
that we need to endorse and and double click on? What else can we take away from this talk?
Uh, just like for the young people who are having kids now, don't forget your firstborns that there's two kids. I have to reiterate that because it's not a nice feeling. So yeah.
Okay. I am just gonna say to the firstborn children, do some introspection, hey? Some of his frustrations that you have, this feeling of being overwhelmed that you have, this could be, it's not everybody, this could probably be of your own doing. There is a lot of responsibilities that you can possibly shed without hurting anybody, because
Without.
each and every person, even those siblings of ours that we feel are not capable of handling their own affairs, they can, because they know best what's best for their lives. Everybody knows that. So
Mm.
don't take over when you are not asked. Like Karen said, if they didn't ask you, put it aside unless somebody really comes, and don't take it on if you feel it's going to enable them, because victims will remain victims. And if you are a savior, you are doing a disservice to the person that you are saving. You have to let them learn so that they can gain wisdom, and wisdom is the only way to actually become a good leader of self and others. So I just like to urge every firstborn child to look into that. It might not be you who's going through what I went through, what Karen went through, but if you are, you're not alone. We've
Oh,
all been there, done
yes.
that. It's hard to let go, but it can be done. This is a self-love journey. Every day we learn and every day we grow. So yeah, till next time, Karen, we can't wait to have you back. This was nice.
This was awesome. Thank you for inviting me again, Angeline.
You are welcome. Have a good day further and say hi to your pretty
Mm.
sibling. Pretty or
I will. Ah, regards to Shingy as well.
will do, will do. Cheers,
All
cheers.
right. Bye.